Let's begin our journey through Psalm 91 with a deep reflection on the first point, which speaks of divine protection. This concept offers us an extraordinary sense of security, a refuge that goes beyond the visible circumstances of the world we live in. The verse says, "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty." Psalm 91:1. The image this verse presents is powerful. The shelter of the Most High is not simply a physical place, but a state of mind, a spiritual condition. In our daily lives, we often find ourselves seeking security and stability in the wrong places. Today, we might think of protection as insurance, a secure home, or financial stability. But the truth is, none of these things can guarantee us inner peace and absolute serenity. When the Psalm speaks of the shelter of the Most High, it invites us to seek this security not in what is material or temporary, but in the presence of God. Think of modern life, where everything moves at such a rapid pace that it can often leave us feeling disoriented, as if we are in the middle of a storm. However, those who take refuge in God find a place of peace, like someone seeking shade under the branches of a large tree, shielded from the scorching sun. The dwelling mentioned in the psalm is not a temporary refuge. It is a permanent place, a continuous state of trust. Often in our time, the busyness of life leads us to seek quick fixes to our problems. But dwelling in the Most High teaches us that true peace comes from a constant relationship with God. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Isaiah 40:29. Friends, this is the promise God makes to us. Even when we are tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed by events, we can rest in Him. Imagine life as a journey through a desert, where the sun can be relentless and the challenges seem insurmountable. The Bible tells us that those who dwell in the shadow of the Almighty will never walk that path alone. God becomes our spiritual umbrella, a place of refreshment when everything around us seems dry. It is not only physical protection, but also mental, emotional, and spiritual protection. This verse invites us to reflect on what it truly means to dwell in God. It is not an occasional refuge to seek only in times of difficulty, but a life lived in His presence, in every breath, in every decision. Our faith becomes like the roots of a tree that even under the fiercest storm, remains steady because it is deeply anchored in the earth. Likewise, if we are rooted in trust in God, we do not waver when life's storms hit. Today's world often leads us to believe that we must be strong on our own, that vulnerability is a weakness. But Psalm 91 teaches us the exact opposite. Our strength does not come from what we can control, but from whom we trust. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Joshua 1:9. This is the heart of divine protection. God is with us in every step, even when we feel lost or powerless. Friends, dwelling in the shelter of the Most High is an act of trust, a conscious decision to entrust every worry and anxiety to God. When we choose to rest in the shadow of the Almighty, we find shelter not only from external challenges, but also from internal ones. The peace that God offers us is total, a peace that the world cannot give. In conclusion to this first point, let us carry in our hearts the awareness that God is our safe refuge. No matter how turbulent the waters of life may seem, those who rest in God can face anything with courage and hope, knowing that the Most High watches over us with infinite love and protection. Continuing our journey through Psalm 91, we now delve into the second point, which speaks of deliverance from the traps of the enemy. This is a crucial aspect of our spiritual life. Understanding that God not only protects us, but also frees us from unseen dangers, from snares we are often unaware of. The verse says, "Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence." Psalm 91:3. Here, we are introduced to the image of the fowler, someone who sets traps with the intent of capturing. In modern life, we can interpret this fowler as the forces that seek to weaken us spiritually and mentally. These might be daily worries, anxieties, temptations, or even the negative influences that surround us. Let us think of these snares as those moments when we feel overwhelmed by circumstances, when fear holds us back, or doubts paralyze us. Today's world is filled with such traps. We often find ourselves battling insecurity or the sense of failure, feeling trapped in situations that seem inescapable. But God, as this verse reminds us, is the one who delivers us. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41:10. The metaphor of the fowler's snare can also be seen as those moments when we are deceived by the illusions of the world. Think about the pressure to meet society's standards of success, which pushes us to seek external validation instead of resting in the security of God's love. The psalm tells us that God frees us from these false narratives, guides us away from what entraps us, and leads us back to the path of truth. The deadly pestilence, mentioned in the verse, can be likened to crises that hit us unexpectedly. Today, we might see this pestilence in the form of global fears such as diseases, economic crises, or situations that seem to threaten our well-being and safety. Yet, even in the midst of these calamities, God promises to deliver us. This does not mean we will never face difficulties, but that we can be certain that God is present even in the most challenging trials. Friends, the snares of life can be subtle and hidden, like those set by a skilled hunter. They might appear in the form of toxic relationships, influences that distort our values, or even our own thoughts of doubt and fear. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world. Ephesians 6:12. Our battle is spiritual, and God promises His deliverance. Let us also consider the modern-day traps of technology, the constant distractions that often pull us away from communion with God. Today, we are constantly bombarded with stimuli, information, and demands that drag us away from inner peace. In this context, God is our deliverer, the one who helps us untangle ourselves from this chaos and refocus on what truly matters, our relationship with Him. God's deliverance is complete, not partial. He does not leave us halfway, nor does He free us from one snare only to abandon us to another. His work of salvation is ongoing and constant. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge. Psalm 18:2. This is the assurance we have. God is always with us, ready to deliver us from any situation that threatens to trap us. And finally, let us remember that God's deliverance is not only external, but also internal. He frees us from the invisible chains of our heart and mind, from the fears, doubts, and feelings of inadequacy that often paralyze us. So if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. John 8:36. This is God's promise, a freedom that is true, deep, and complete. As we conclude this second point, we realize that life is full of challenges, but we are never alone. God is always by our side, ready to free us from every trap and every danger that threatens us. Friends, let us continue to trust in Him, knowing that His deliverance is certain and His protection is perfect. Even when the snares seem invisible or insurmountable, God is already at work to pull us out and lead us toward the freedom that only He can give. As we arrive at the third point of our journey through Psalm 91, we focus on a concept of great power, faith as a shield. The verse tells us, His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. Psalm 91:4. This offers us an extraordinary view of divine protection, presenting God not only as our refuge but also as our active defense against everything that could hurt or discourage us. In our daily lives, we face situations that test our faith and resilience. Imagine being in the midst of a battle, and today, more than ever, we find ourselves fighting invisible wars. Wars against fear, anxiety, and the uncertainty of the future. Just as a soldier in battle needs a shield to protect against attacks, we need a spiritual shield to confront life's challenges. The faithfulness of God becomes our shield. Let's think about what this means in our modern reality. Today, the stress of life, social expectations, and the ongoing economic and environmental changes can feel like arrows striking us from every side. But the Bible assures us that God's faithfulness is an impenetrable protection. But you, O Lord, are a shield around me, my glory, the one who lifts my head high. Psalm 3:3. No matter how great the challenges we face, God's faithfulness surrounds and protects us. When we speak of faith as a shield, we are talking about an active trust, a conviction that God will never abandon us, even when circumstances seem adverse. In today's life, we might compare this shield to an invisible barrier protecting us from emotional or psychological attacks. When fear strikes us, when doubts try to penetrate us, the shield of faith repels all of this, giving us the strength to move forward. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. 2 Corinthians 4:16. The armor mentioned in the psalm is another important symbol. While the shield protects against direct attacks, the armor defends the heart, the vital organ. Today, we might see this armor as the protection of our soul and emotions. We live in an age where we are vulnerable to criticism, external expectations, and social judgment. But God's faithfulness cloaks us like armor, protecting what is most precious: our identity in Christ, our intrinsic value as children of God. The armor of faith not only protects us, but also strengthens us to withstand the enemy's attacks. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Ephesians 6:11. The spiritual battle we face every day is not easy, but with faith as our shield and God's faithfulness as our armor, we are equipped to withstand anything. Friends, in a society that often pushes us to be strong on our own, we must remember that our true strength comes from trusting God. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. Jeremiah 17:7. Our trust is not based on the circumstances we see, but on God's unchanging faithfulness. He does not change, and this stability becomes our security. Let's think of all the times we have felt vulnerable, exposed to life's attacks. Perhaps we have felt alone in the face of adversity, or doubted our ability to overcome certain challenges. But with God as our shield, we need not fear. Even when arrows come our way, faith repels every attack, and the armor protects our hearts, keeping us anchored in God's love. Finally, let us reflect on the fact that God does not only protect us passively, but actively supports us. His faithfulness surrounds us like a shield that blocks the enemy's arrows, and his protection never fails. Even when we feel weak or weary, he is there, faithful and constant. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. Psalm 121:7. This gives us the certainty that we can face anything with courage and hope. In concluding this third point, let us remember that while the world throws tests and difficulties our way, we have a shield that protects us and an armor that strengthens us. God's faithfulness is our refuge and our defense, and with this awareness, we can face every battle knowing that we are not alone. God is with us, always. In the fourth and final point of our journey through Psalm 91, we address a theme that encompasses a profound sense of security and trust: protection against fears and invisible dangers. The verse states, "You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday." Psalm 91:5-6. These powerful images speak to us about fears that are often invisible but very real. Today, many of us are in a constant struggle against anxiety, fear of the future, and uncertainty. The modern world is filled with what we might consider the terror of the night, those silent worries that keep us awake, the fears that seem to amplify in the darkness of our minds. Yet this verse invites us not to be afraid, for God is present with us both day and night, protecting us even from what we cannot see. Let us think of the terror of the night as those worries that strike us deep within, fears about the future, our health, our families, or our jobs. In these moments, we can feel overwhelmed, as if we are engulfed in darkness. Yet God promises us that even in the midst of darkness, He is our light. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. This promise instills courage in us. God is present, even in the most difficult moments when we feel lost. The arrows that fly by day can be likened to those sudden attacks we face in our daily lives. Today, these arrows could represent the unexpected challenges life presents us, such as financial difficulties, family issues, or illnesses. They are the trials that strike us without warning, but the psalm reassures us that we need not fear them, for God is our shield even in these circumstances. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Even when the difficulties seem insurmountable, God is with us, ready to support and protect us. Furthermore, the psalm speaks of the pestilence that stalks in darkness and the destruction that wastes at noonday. These images refer to invisible dangers that can threaten our peace and serenity. Consider the global challenges of our times: pandemics, conflicts, economic crises. These are the modern plagues, threats that can devastate our security and trust in the future. However, God promises us that even in the face of these calamities, we need not fear, for His protection is constant and powerful. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. Psalm 91:7. Friends, we live in an era where fears are amplified. Technology and the media constantly bombard us with news of dangers and crises, fueling anxiety and uncertainty. Yet, Psalm 91 invites us to radical trust. We are not called to ignore challenges or deny difficulties, but to remember that God is with us through all these trials. We need not walk alone. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Psalm 27:1. This is the assurance we are given. With God by our side, there is nothing to fear. Let us also view night and noon as metaphors for the cycle of life. Night represents moments of uncertainty, confusion, when we feel we cannot clearly see the way ahead. Noon, on the other hand, represents those moments when the light is strongest, but the shadows can also be more pronounced. Even in moments of apparent clarity and strength, we may find ourselves battling internal challenges that seem to annihilate us. Yet God is present in every moment in both light and darkness. Additionally, the concept of the terror of the night invites us to reflect on how our faith can overcome every fear. We live in a society that often seeks to manage fears with temporary solutions, such as distractions or material security. But the true antidote to fear is the presence of God. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. Psalm 56:3. This unconditional trust allows us to face the fears of the night and the attacks of the day with courage and hope. In concluding this fourth point, we understand that God protects us not only from visible dangers, but also from invisible ones. We need not fear, neither by day nor by night, for God's protection is constant and total. Whether we face external challenges or battle our internal fears, we can rest assured that God is our refuge, our shield, and our salvation. And so, with this rooted confidence, we can walk through life with courage, knowing that we are always under the protective wing of our God. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Psalm 23:1. As we conclude this moment of reflection and hope, let us remember that God's protection is always with us today and every day. No matter what challenges or fears we may face, we can walk with courage, knowing that we are under His protective wing. My friends, tomorrow we will be here together again with a new video to continue nurturing our faith and finding strength in the Word of God. I invite you to follow us, stay connected, and share your reflections, thoughts, or questions in the comments below. Your words enrich this community and help us grow together. May God bless you, and see you soon.